Good evening, everybody. Good evening to everyone who is attending with us tonight in Day Two's Assessment Practices Learning Program. I want to welcome you to tonight's class. Please bear with us. We're going to be commencing in the next 2 to 3 minutes. We're busy connecting with other individuals and also some gadgets so that we do not go offline. We shall be commencing shortly. In the meantime, I want you to open up your learning portals and also be able to connect to the assignments page. Okay. All right, welcome back to the second session of our assessment practices. Tonight, we are going to be digging deeper into the learning program, conduct outcome-based assessment, and then we shall be able also to go into details to unpack some of the key assignments and activities that we need to do or to complete for you to be declared competent. Remember, this is a short skills program. It's a professional development program. I am of a view that everybody who is in this class is a practitioner and you are practicing already. And I know for sure that you are familiar with most of the things that we are talking about. And you just need to get these programs into your registration and also get your certificate certified, and then you become a practitioner. But other than that, I believe that most of you who are attending this class actually do have the prior knowledge onto assessment practices, and you have reasons why you actually registered for this learning program. Now, yesterday I did mention a couple of things. Above all, we did discuss or describe some of the key concepts of the NQF system. Remember, an assessor needs to understand the roles of being an assessor and also understanding the details of the NQF system. I did post some of the key articles and some information onto our portal. I believe most of you, if you are getting those emails, you should be receiving those notifications that we keep on sending through. And this afternoon, I did send in some of the key information regarding the roles of an assessor. And it is quite clear, because what I've discovered is that most people only take assessment as just a one key component of just assessing individuals for competency. However, it goes beyond just assessment. It goes over the board. Just for you to become an assessor, you actually add value in so many fields and so many environments that you might not be aware of. So please go and read more about the notice that I did publish, put up onto our portal, and then you'll get more of that information. So you are not limited to only conducting or marking assessment. Above all, I did also indicate some of the importance of being an assessor. We spoke about the quality assurance and standardization. We spoke about yesterday the professional development. I did also post something related to improving educational outcomes, workplace competency. So go read deeper about these importances, and then you will be able to get a full understanding of the assessment practices. Also, a copy of the video of yesterday's class has been already posted into our portal. So please, whenever you need such information, go to your portal news, and then you will be able to download that video. Alternatively, go and download it from our YouTube channel. You'll see it's literally indicating or it is being marked as online assessor class for yesterday's date, the 23rd of July. So go and visit that video and have a brief or the information that we did discuss yesterday. It will give you a full understanding. And also, if you want to share it, you can share the video with your team, more especially those who are working into teams. So you can share the video and try to get that full understanding. However, tonight we are going to go deeper a little bit. Like I said yesterday, we are going to try to unpack what is called the qualification structures. Qualification structure. And I just want to quickly make it clear. Our assessment practices or facilitation is not the same as other training providers. Ours might sound a little bit deeper and technical, but let me just give you an understanding that this is for our own benefit, for your own benefit as a trainee or as a candidate assessor. Because if you don't get it from at the beginning of the program, you might not be able to practice efficiently as an assessor. The reasons why we are pushing to get all this information into the program is simply because to empower you, we need to impart that knowledge that you need for you to practice as an assessor. So tonight we're gonna look at the qualification structure. And why do we choose qualification? Because we believe there's no single assessor who's gonna go out there to conduct assessment without having a qualification in place. There must be a qualification that one is going to assess evidence produced by a candidate or by a learner for them to be able to pass on a judgment. So you need to have a qualification in place. So you need to understand the qualification rule, the purpose of the qualification, the specific outcomes or the exit level outcomes of the program that the learners have embarked on, that the learners have been facilitated on. Above all, you need to be able to unpack the qualification for your better assessment practices. Without unpacking the qualification, evidence might be missing or evidence might be insufficient, as they call it, insufficient evidence for you to pass on a correct judgment. So tonight we are going to look at the concepts or the issues related to the qualification structure. Okay. Now, when we talk about a qualification structure, you are overview, all of you, that every qualification has got components. These components make up the qualification. In the generic legacy qualification, an example, what I'm presenting right now on the screen, that is being shared, you will see that the qualification that we have here is of a legacy qualification, and legacy qualifications are all those qualifications that were registered pre 2009 qualification, all those qualifications that were pre-registered by 2009, we call them the legacy qualifications, because that's the period that were endorsed or registered to meet specific criteria and requirements. Some of them are still in existence or they have not yet been taken out, but however, some of them have been registered or re-registered by other quality assuring bodies like the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. Most of them have got an expiry date which ended previously on the 30th of June. However, some of them as well were re-registered. So you need to know if your qualification is current or it has been re-registered or it has been taken out, is one of the expired qualifications. So you need to be aware of, because we know very much for sure that if a qualification is expired, there must be a replacement or a program that replaces it. Or if it is a unit standard, it must either be within a qualification that either has been re-registered or it has been, it has transited into another program where it is much more applicable. So you need to make those follow-ups and updates through the South African Qualification Authority, the custodians of all qualifications. So you need to be familiar, visit their website. And as assessor, you need to empower yourself with such knowledge and information now and then, so that you know what is the current situation or information related to your industry. So every qualification, we talk about a legacy qualification. For any normal qualification, it has got the fundamental, the building blocks, components. It has got the core components or the elective components. Now, in the QCTO framework, this has changed. Okay, in the QCTO framework, this has changed. So you may find that this whole information has changed into what is called the occupational qualification. So the occupational qualification is actually comprising of the knowledge component, which is the knowledge modules. Then it has got the practical part or the practical modules, and then the workplace modules. You'll find that this is what is being presented in the QCTO environment. Okay, so they are similar, because you will find that when you unpack the QCTO qualification, it is just literally being fetched from the legacy qualification to form the occupational qualification, but with the introduction of more of the practicals and more of the workplace. But most of the knowledge components are literally the components found in a legacy qualification. They are exactly the same, if not related or closely related. So you need to empower yourself with such knowledge. We shall unpack some of the qualifications that we're going to take out an example of a qualification of a quality council, and as well as a legacy qualification. However, all qualifications are made in these structures: knowledge component, practical component, and workplace-based modules. This is for occupational qualifications, occupational certificates, or occupational qualifications from the QCTO, the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations. So you are eligible to assess either legacy or occupational-based qualification once you become a registered assessor. Now, in terms of the legacy qualification, we have the fundamental unit standard. These are broken down into unit standards. They are still existing, and there are some that are actually expiring or being replaced with other unit standards. However, if there are no unit standards, we have what is called the exit level outcomes. On this other side, on the left side, we have what is called the exit level outcomes. Exit level outcomes, ELOs. So we call them the ELOs. Okay, for the qualification that are non-unistandard bearing. So I think we get the difference now. Now you find that most of these qualifications that have got fundamentals, that have got the course, that have got elective unit standards, they are amongst the sectors of education and training authorities. Very few are within the quality councils. Very few are within the quality councils. So however, under the quality councils, either the programs are registered against the exit level outcomes or against the occupational based qualification framework, which has got the knowledge, the practical, and the workplace modules. I think we are clear with that. So it is up to you, the assessor, to know which type of qualification are you intending to assess. One of the practical activities that we are going to be doing tomorrow, and it's going to be forming part of what you are going to assess, is that you will need to identify a program or a qualification or a unit standard that you are going to assess. In other words, you will select a program, identify it, and then conduct an assessment or design and develop an assessment plan onto that qualification. That will be one of our activities that we shall be doing during the compilation of the POEs. Okay. So, but remember, you will need to select a program based onto your own specification as a subject matter expert, right? So you might choose a unit standard based program. You might choose a qualification which is unit standard bearing. You might choose a qualification which doesn't have unit standard, but it has got exit level outcomes. And all these are found within the national, within the NQF system under the National Learners Record Database of SAQA. Okay. Now, a qualification, to be called a qualification, it must have a minimum of 120 credits. I think it is much more clear here. It must have a minimum of 120 credits. If it is below, we call it a part qualification. I think you've heard of these names: part qualification, full qualification, skills program. We're going to look at those parts. So if it is below 120, then it means it's either a part qualification. If it is above 120, it means it's a qualification, but then it must be falling within a specific range. Is it a qualification which is NQF level 2, 3, 4, 5? What qualification does it, under which level does it fall as well? It does count for you to understand those aspects. However, I want to make it clear that it is not your role to know the level. The designer or the developer of a qualification or a program, already they have indicated the level at which the qualification was developed or pitched. So it's up to you to just adopt that this program is level 2 or is level 4 or is level 5, and then you use the level to determine what type of assessment will be sufficient to meet the criteria that has been indicated into that qualification or program. And to do that, you need to know that the level, the minimum credits, will precisely give you the duration of the program. Okay? The minimum credits will precisely give you the duration of the program. Without credits, it is very difficult for you to advise training providers or anybody about the number of credits that are embedded, the number of days or the duration of the program, without knowing the credit value. Even when you want to design a new program, let's say a client calls you and say, we want you to give us some knowledge or skills in a specific environment. And then you have to determine how many days it's going to be, a month, 2 weeks, 1 day, 2 days, 2 hours. It depends on the credit value of the program that you select or the program that you align it to. That will give you the credit value. It is normal that every qualification has got credits. And according to the standardization of credit value, that one credit is equivalent to 10 notional hours. One credit is equivalent to 10 notional hours. So when you have one credit, is literally equivalent to 10 notional hours. I think we get that part. Now I want to explain what is the meaning of notional. What is this notional hours? A lot of people normally confuse it with the normal hours. Notional hours, this means all, okay? This means all time, the entire period, all right, for one to complete a course. If let's say the course is 10 days, the 10 days are precisely 10 days whereby one day has got 24 hours. That's notional. Everything combined together make the notional period, the notional time for one to complete. So if we say it's 2 days, it means it's notional 2 days. It's not the same hours as the classroom presentation hours or the assessment hours or the workplace based hours or the practical hours. That's all separated, but everything put together, including the case study, homework, assignments, projects, all together, off-site or on-site learning, all put together is what we call notional hours. Notional hours. So we must understand that an assessor can only conduct assessment based on the notional hour matrix. We call it the matrix because we have to unpack it to know 2 hours is for what, 3 hours is for what, 30 seconds is for what. So all that put together, including assessments in class and assessment after learning. That is the formative assessment, summative assessment, or if there is any integrated final summative assessment or the external assessment. That's all put together. Okay, so that's what normally happens when we are conducting assessments, because it is up to you to know the notional hour metrics. I'm going to pause here for a short, for a 1 minute to for water break, 1 minute water break. Then we shall come back and complete the next part. Okay, let us proceed with the next part. Let us proceed with the next part. I want to pin this so that I'm visible clearly. So in the next part, we are going to unpack a qualification. So we say if it's a qualification and it has got 120 credits, that means the national hour will be 10 multiplied by 120, which will give you 1,200 national hours. 1,200. So you should take the 10 multiply it by the 120, and then that's what you get. So you get 1,200 notional hours. Now, the 1,200 notional hour is the total amount of time or hours that you are going to spend to complete a qualification. So from this, you can be able literally to know how many hours are you going to take to facilitate. How many hours are you going to take from here to conduct a practical? How many hours you gonna take from here to give assignment? Because remember, all these things must be calculated. The practicals that you give, the case studies that you give, they have days or hours. The entire program must be calculated in terms of the notional hour matrix. You can only do so if you know the credit value of the program. Every assessor needs to be aware of the credit value of the program so that you can be able to assist the facilitators to unpack the facilitation duration of the program. A lot of people don't know how to score the facilitation period, and precisely then you find yourself either over facilitating or under facilitating. The same applies to assessment. Either you are over assessing or under assessing, whereby you are not balancing the notional hour metrics. That cost money if it's not calculated properly. How does it cost money? Because if you are over doing something, it means you're also going to increase the number of resources that you will need or require for you to complete a given period of time. That means if you are conducting training, and instead of pitching a training at 3 days or 4 days, and then you end up doing it at 10 days, those extra days are costing money for implementation of the program. You are implementing now out of the budget or the budgeted amount for a specific learning program. Hence, you find some assessors don't know how to quote. When it comes to assessment practices, you do not know how to price yourself as an assessor to conduct assessment on given portfolios of evidence. Why? Because you are not aligning yourself to the credit value. Every program, unit standard, qualification, they all have credits. Whether it is QCT or program, they have credits, and those credits are broken down in specific small segments to know this module or this subtopic one or this knowledge topic one will take 10 credits or 2 credits or 3 credits. Then you are able also to know how long are you going to conduct assessment, facilitation, how long are you going to assess, what assessments are you going to give within which period of times. It helps you also to track and trace the submission of evidence within the appropriate time. You don't find yourself out of the time that has been allocated for the completion of a given program. So the notional hour matrix comes from the credit value. So I want to encourage all facilitators, assessors, please make sure you understand the concept of credits. The credit is very much important because it guides you in terms of implementing a program. Without the number of credits awarded or scored against the program or a qualification, you won't know how long it might take for you to complete. What forms of assessment are you going to complete within what period of time? So you can't be able to determine that because the program is not aligned to credit value. So that's why we encourage training providers or facilitators, assessors to persuade, to talk to training providers or organizations when they are giving out specific skills. Let them align every training to an accredited course or an accredited program, because it's going to help them to manage their production, to manage their finances, the resources that they have or they might have allocated, for the implementation purposes. So it's your role as an assessor to make sure that you're able to assist in this regards. So, for example, if we've got an example of a program that is 10 credits, a unit standard, someone calls you to facilitate a program which has got 10 credits, and you want to know how long can you take to complete this program, including facilitation, assessment, moderation, and certification process, all put together. You need to know the notional hour metrics for a program. You just get that program multiplied by 10, right? And then you get your 100. So this program multiplied by 10, because we know generically 1 credit is equivalent to 10 notional hours. So this one we get 10 notional hours. So those notional hours are actually what we need now to unpack. How do you unpack the national hours? These are standard hours for the entire program. But if you want to know the number of days that are fit into these national hours, we go back to the Department of Labor. South African law clearly indicates that we have working hours which are 40 working hours per week. So it means in a day, we only have 8 working hours standardized, under the terms and conditions of employment. It's 8 hours. An employer can increase based on the agreement between an employee and the employer. They can increase the hours, they can reduce the hours depending on their agreements, but the standard hours are actually 8 hours. So if you want to know how many days are fit into these national hours, all right, you just divide it by 8 and then you get the precise number of days. The days that you get are actually the days for the program, the entire program from the beginning to certification. You get it? From the beginning to certification. So you cannot train outside the given period of time. It must be within the period that has been allocated by the standard hours of facilitation. So I want you to go deeper and understand if one is able to get the number of days. These days will be able for you to unpack it, the period for facilitation, the periods for assessment, periods for any other item that you want to do. You can be able to calculate it literally in that regard. So if here we get 100 divided by 8, it will be precisely like 12.5, but we round it off to the nearest whole number, which will be 13 days. Now, these will be days. Now, these days are the full days, including assessment, all that put together. So if you want to know how many days can I allocate for assessment, facilitation, we go back to the standard as well. The national hour matrix is clear. Please go and read about national hour matrix of SACA. Go and read it clearly. So it is upon either also the institutional implementation program design policy, which either indicates a program can be facilitated for a given period of time within the ranges that the institution proposes, that is best applicable within the institution of resources available. Most organizations take to a policy of 30 to 70 delivery mode. What does it mean? 30, it means 30% of the program will be facilitated, and then the 70% of the program, that's where there will be assessment and all these other practicals or support, whatever case might be, workplace, if there's any practical or anything. So the facilitator must only take 30% of this facilitation. So what is 30% of this 13? What is 30% of this 13? It will be more or less the same as 4 days, more or less the same as 4 days. So it means out of all these 13 days, a facilitator can be in class for 4 days. So that means in these 4 days, you can plan day 1, day 2, day 3, then you draw up your training plan, or we call it the lesson plan. You can be able to draw up your lesson plan day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Then the 70% you can take out maybe 10% on assessment and say, day 1, I'm going to incorporate in assessment of a class activity, which is for 15 minutes. Day 2, we're going to do maybe a role play of 15 minutes as well. So you go on compiling all those hours up until they match up to 100% square completely, and they'll make up the time that you need to be able to complete the entire program. That's how we use the national hour matrix. This is technical. I'm going to record this. Actually, it's already been recorded, and then you'll be able to revise more on your side. Okay. So I don't know if I must pause. If you've got any questions at this moment, we can also be able to look at those questions, and then we can continue, because of time, we don't have much time to spend onto an item. So if you have any question, please ask me, or you can raise up your hand and then you ask a question. And then if you need some elaboration, we can be able to elaborate it more. I guess we don't have any questions at this moment, but do not be afraid. You can send in also a text message onto the in-call message, right? You can send in those text messages. We can be able to answer those questions at a later stage. Okay. Or you can go click onto the Q&A and then send in a question under the Q&A. So it's also fine. You can find it under the icons on your bottom right of your computer. There will be like small little triangle. Then you click on it, it will give you Q&A questions where you can be able to ask questions. Or you see a text, text box where you can type in your question and also send it through. It is also fine. Alternatively, go to your portal and send in your question. We can be able to guide you, but this is what you need to do. An assessor must know how to calculate the time that they need to conduct facilitation and assessment precisely. You do not want to be given 10 portfolios to assess, and then you're going to spend 20 days on those 10 portfolios, right? It won't make sense. And only to find that it's only a unit standard one which has got 5 credits or 2 credits, but you are spending 20 days just to conduct assessment on those 10 portfolios, which you're supposed to be doing in just few hours. So it's all dependent on you as an assessor. Remember, assessment, we work like judges. A judge, or like lawyers, advocates, they work by time, hours. Even facilitation. Now, another person one day asked me, okay, I'm a facilitator and an assessor, and I've been called to conduct facilitation. How am I going to price, for my work that I'm going to conduct? It's also done per hour. It's also done in hourly rates. A lot of training providers have been actually taken for granted, and they're underpricing, the job, only to find that they are being not so much keen in terms of knowing the credit value metrics and the notional hour metrics. So they don't know that part of calculations and coming up with the number of hours, days, whatever case might be, so that they can price the individual. So when you put into the national hour metrics, you'll know the number of days. So you start to price per day, right? Per day. And in those days, if a day, you know how many hours in a day. So you go and also price per hour, because there are certain hours that you are not functional, certain hours that you are actually busy. So you price also per hour as well. There are some courses that you're only gonna feature for days or for hours. An example, they call me more especially for presentations and motivational speeches, or to be just a speaker on a function, or more especially on assessment practices. And they say, no, you're only going to speak for 30 minutes or 1 hour about assessment. And then I must send in my invoice or quotation onto how I expect to be, paid for the period or the time I'm going to spend there, and the knowledge that I'm going to impart onto the congregants. So I use the notional hour metrics to price. Literally, I use the national hour metrics to price, to say, okay, I'm going to be there for 2 hours. Then I unpack what am I going to talk about in these 2 hours or 1 hour. Then I have my points or my whatever discussion I'm going to talk about. Then I put a price tag on every topic that I'm going to speak about. Put a price tag, because they go in hourly rates. Say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm done. All right. So you put based on the notional hour metric, so it helps you to price. The same applies to all training providers who are offering these courses. Like here, you are going to be offering these courses. If you are offering the courses and you find that you are underpricing the students who have enrolled or who are enrolling onto your courses, you are underpricing simply because you don't know the notional hour metrics. So instead of you pricing precisely the value of the credits that is proportional to the amount that's supposed to be paid due to the resources that you're going to utilize, the time you're gonna use to conduct facilitation, the resources you're going to use, the manpower or the practitioners that are going to help or assist you in delivering the program. You do not count all those people, and then at the end of the day you put up a price, and the price that you have put up or onto a price tag that you have put onto the qualification as school fees or as tuition fees, they are actually not even making a quarter of the resources that are required per candidate to be declared competent. Those kind of individuals, they must get so many students at one time for them to break even. If the number of students are very few, there's nothing that they benefit from. Like an example, in this our programs are priced at 4,000 rand. Yeah, I mean, you can find them cheaper somewhere. I saw some other individual training provider, I don't know, that is accredited, was pricing this program at 1,000. Then I was asking, what is it that they are doing 1,000? How is it being priced? Like, literally, it doesn't make sense. Another one saw, and if they are doing all three program 1,000, then I was asking myself, how is it beneficial and how is it adding value, and how are they managing, the then only to find that actually they are the individuals that give out training materials, and someone must go and do it on their own, so it's like correspondence, and those people never complete. Through correspondence you'll never get those people exited out of the system, because they will be not able, they have no knowledge. Assessment, you cannot give it through correspondence. Assessment, you need to facilitate to individuals, bring their understanding so that they can be able to practice the same way you are practicing. You want them to practice the same way. You cannot leave them to be on their own and do research. Anyway, they can do it independently without even paying anybody, and still get the knowledge if they want to get knowledge. But one needs to get to become a practitioner, so you need to support them. So if there's no support sessions, then it becomes not of that importance for someone to take up a program through correspondence. It doesn't make sense. So this is another part. Pricing is very key, because we benchmark the price based on the credit value. So it's your role as an assessor to know the credit value, that you can be able to use it in across the board, all your programs, implementation, assessment practices, paying of facilitators, designing of training material, because also remember there is a part of designing of training material. The period you're going to complete or to sit on to design an assessment instrument, and maybe the content that you are going to deliver out is time, and it must be put into account. It must be counted for. It must be recognized that you're using time. So if you are not considering such, it means you are wasting a lot of time for things that you might have done better, because you have not imparted yourself with such knowledge. So I encourage you, please go and read more about this. If you want a private session one-on-one, please contact me in my inbox, and then I'll give you such support. Okay, I'll give you such support in terms of understanding the notional hour metrics. Now, in terms of qualification, like I said, a minimum credits of 120 is a qualification. A qualification can still be unpacked into skills programs. A skills program is a combination of one or two unit standards, two or more unit standards put together, rather. Two or more unit standards put together form a skills program, right? And within a skills program, every unit standard must be assessed based on their respective specific outcomes and their relevant assessment criteria. That's what you, an assessor, are supposed to know, that every unit standard here, every unit standard must be assessed based on the specific outcome. So you find that there will be a lot of specific outcomes. It's your role to account for every outcome using the provided assessment criteria. Every outcome has got assessment criteria. So when you are conducting assessment, what do? It means you must design assessment instruments that are talking to the assessment criteria. That also takes you to an understanding that you can give advice where you find that assessment is not talking to the relevant assessment criteria. Maybe you are not part of the design and development of the program. Then you need to advise the training provider on the best practices or the best assessment instruments that are relevant and aligned to the assessment criteria mentioned within a given specific outcome. Every outcome must be accounted for. The same applies to qualifications that are under the Quality Council for Trade and Occupation. Every topic must be accounted for. Every topic must be accounted for with its respective assessment strategy. So it means you must read the two documents, the curriculum document, you must read it, as well as the assessment specifications of that qualification. You must read it in details to understand the criteria, the assessment criteria that has been, that is required for one to be declared competent against this qualification or against a topic or a subtopic or a module. All right. So it is up to you, the assessor. So I'm trying to demonstrate this. You won't find this information anywhere in the assessment tools. I mean, in the assessor course, you can't find it. Why? Because they only want to take you through to complete the POE. But what is the POE comprising of that you are intending to rush to complete? I've got some students here as well that tried or attempted to complete and they were unable. Why? Because they never understood the basic information on assessment and why do we literally go into assessment practices, right? The assessor course, let me quickly allude to you that the assessor course has got 5 specific outcomes. 5 specific outcomes. And the first outcome is demonstrate an understanding of outcomes-based assessment. So for you to demonstrate, it means you must have knowledge. You must get knowledge on assessments, outcomes-based assessments. All right? Before you go to prepare for assessment, then plan for assessment, then give feedback on assessment, and then review on assessment. Those are the outcomes. So you have to first understand the demonstration, the knowledge on. That's why we say you must be a subject matter expert. And after being a subject, you need to know the assessment knowledge. You must have got the knowledge on what is it that you're assessing, what is it what you are looking for. So this information is going to remove any doubts when we are busy compiling the POE or the portfolio of evidence that is required by the ETDP SITA for you to be declared competent. All right. So you need to know the qualification that you are going to assess, or if it's not a qualification, a skills program, you need to know what are the components of that skills program and what unit standards are there, what specific outcomes are embedded, as well as what assessment criteria are in the specific outcomes of every unit standard. So you must have what is called the assessment matrix as well. The assessment matrix, this is a document that maps the unit standard, specific outcomes, and assessment criteria to the activities that you are giving out. You could have topics or activities or exercises, whatever case might be, any form you want to call it, but they must align to the outcomes, that indeed the outcomes have been achieved and a learner is exiting out of the outcomes. Okay. Now, let me give you an example. This is an example of a unit standard. This unit standard says, indicate how different needs lead to the development of different insurance products. Now, I'm talking to individuals here. Maybe if one was a subject matter expert in insurance, right? Someone is a subject matter expert in insurance. I'm not a subject matter expert in insurance. I'm a subject matter expert in design and development, or in assessment, or in facilitation, in education. You know, I'm an educator. So, but I can be able to unpack this unit standard even if I'm not a subject matter expert, because of the knowledge that has been given onto me right here. What happens that, look at this unit standard. This unit standard says, indicate how different needs lead to the development of different insurance products. All right, indicate. So this unit standard, it means you must be able to interpret it before even you design assessment instruments or mark individual. You must be able to to unpack it and understand it. What is the purpose of this unit standard? What does it need, or what are the probable evidence that might be required for a learner to learn against this unit standard, and how you intend to assess them? All right. So it has got specific outcomes, and I'm only taking out specific outcome one. Specific outcome one, then it has got 5 assessment criterion, right? 5 assessment criteria. So every criterion must be assessed independently. An example, specific outcome one from this unit standard says survey options on the need for insurance in 2 different communities. So it means one must conduct a survey, an evaluation. There is a community A, community B. We want to test the buying power of policy. Let's say we are selling funeral cover. Community A, we want to go and sell a policy there, and also community B want to sell a community there, but we want to develop the appropriate policies that will suit those communities by looking at the community themselves and going into details to understand the community's behavior in each and every community. That's what the standard is talking about. We want to develop the products for different, communities, but looking at them first, study them, conduct surveys in them, and understand their abilities to purchase a policy. So they are doing a market survey. Am I not right? They are doing a market survey to say, if we bring this policy, where will it sell most? That side, that side. If a car dealership want to sell vehicles, they won't just go and get vehicles and put them into a dealership environment or a garage, and then they start to sell. They'll first conduct what's called a market survey to see the buying power, where the garage is being put, the community around that garage or that dealership. Are the individuals willing to purchase the vehicle or not? What are the buying powers? What are the potentials, the value of cars in that area, so that they can know, is it worth for us to bring this type of vehicle or not? Right? So they will test water. That's why you'll see different car dealership have got different types of vehicles, because they know they have got different market choices. The same applies to this unit standard. One says they need to conduct survey. They must conduct survey on lifestyles, they need the buying power, and then the value system. There are some company or individual community that do not consider funeral policies or cover or anything. So they have to test the waters. If they don't consider this kind of cover, what else can they consider? You find that there's community A where there's high rate of crime, and community where it's so peaceful. So if you want to sell funeral policies, where will you sell it most? Where will you advertise most? Where there is high rate of crime, because people are going to be shooting each other. Boom, 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 boom. They are dying. So the life expectancy there is very low. You understand? Whereas if you go to a quiet community, you find only quiet people. They are staying in high fences. The crime is very limited. They have dogs, they have got patrols, vehicles, they have got guns as well. So it's not easy to go in there. So, you balance. So what type of policy are we going to sell them, those people, those ones? No, we shall sell them medical policies, medical insurances. Why? Because even if they are there, they will get sick. They need medical attention, so they need to go to a private hospital. But this one, we need to sell them funeral, because they're going to die. If they're going to die, we must get them funeral policies, because they experience death on a day-to-day basis. And that's the technique people are using. I say market survey. As you go down, so when you are developing the assessment instrument, you are basing it on the criteria. The criteria will demonstrate to you what type of questions are you going to come up with, what type of assessment are you going to develop. The same applies to a specific outcome or assessment criteria to assessment criterion 3, 4, 5. So every criterion will have questions or assessment that addresses the need for that criterion to be met. And that's what we call designing and developing of assessments, right? Based on the criteria. So we call them criterion referenced assessment. They are criterion referenced. Why? Because we benchmark the assessment onto the criteria that has been provided. So I believe we understand that part. But if you need more of this information, please do not hesitate to reach out, for support, and we can be able to guide you and support you. We can be able to guide you and support you with this information. I'm always available. You can reach out, and then I'll be able to give you more of explanation. If you want to invite me to your institution, please do so. Invite me on one-on-one and pay for my what do you call transportation fare, my petrol, and my time there. Then I come and we unpack these things. If you need some support, also I'm available. You can reach out and say, no, Mr. Yusuf, we need you come through, and then we need to get this thing going. Please give us some little bit of advice, and I can be able to advise you, and then you can get things going. All right. So do not hesitate. Reach out. Okay, let us quickly continue on to the last part. Now, this one is the assessment of qualification according to the level descriptors. Now, this kind of assessment, you're only gonna find it in full qualification that and either do not align to any either specific outcomes. They don't have specific outcomes, but what they do have is what we call exit level outcomes. So under the level descriptors, when you go to university, we've got the level descriptors, assessments. So that we have the assessment criteria also that side. Under the normal qualification here, we have the exit level outcomes. Exit level outcomes that we use. Exit level outcomes are the same as specific outcomes, but in this case, they are specifically focusing on the content or the amount of information required for one to come out of a given module or a given standard. So however, also you find that some qualifications have got unit standards. If they've got unit standards, we're going to assess them based on specific outcomes and their respective assessment criteria. If sometimes they don't have unit standards, and they are not unit standards, the only way to assess them is using what is called the critical cross-field outcome. This is practical based qualification. All practical based qualifications are assessed using the critical cross-field outcomes. And what are they? The critical cross-field outcomes includes but not limited to outcomes which are relevant to working as a team, organizing and managing, collecting, analyzing, organizing, evaluating information, using science and technology, identifying and problem solving, understanding the world as a set of related systems. So we have so many, we have up to 12, but I only mentioned here up to 8 critical crossroad outcomes that you can use to conduct assessment on a qualification or a program that is practical based qualification. Let's say you send people in the workplace. The only way to conduct individuals assessment in the workplace to know if they're able to relate to one another. How can you be able to relate to one another? They must communicate. So you develop assessment instrument that is relating to communication. Teamwork, they're able to work with one another. So you work out assessment instruments that are relating to people working together as a team. It could be role play activities. It could be a lot, so many ways on how you can be able to come up with different assessment methodologies. So these are the critical crossroad outcome examples. You can find more. There are up to 12 in total, but I only give out these ones which are normally standards and are always utilized in many qualifications. Now, another person might ask me, why are we learning about critical? Because this is what you're going to assess on. You are going to assess a program on is either exit level outcomes or specific outcomes, or you are going to assess a qualification based on to its critical crossfield outcomes. Now, I want you to go and read more, download the manual. Like I said yesterday, go and download the manual, read about the training environment in South Africa, in the learner guides. So go and read about the qualification, the South African Qualification Authority and its mandate or its objectives. Read more about it, because activity one in your assessment is asking you to demonstrate an understanding of the South African Qualification Authority. What does it do? Right? So at this moment, most of you are eligible at this moment to answer that assessment in your learning portal. You can answer the the activity one at the same time. It's called the self-assessment, self-assessment. And also you can now start to answer questions related to the formative assessments knowledge questionnaire, which is found into your portal. Go and download it from resources. Then you can be able to answer those questions. They are forming part of your portfolio building. Okay, you can start to attempt those questions because it's part of what we've been discussing throughout. So you'll have to answer questions related to SACA, and we know very much for sure that SACA is the body responsible for overseeing the development and implementation of the National Qualification Framework. So go read more about this one. Go research more about it, and then you'll be able to attempt to answer some questions related to the formative assessment. Okay? Every assessor must know the roles of SACA and the qualification related to SACA and all the development and the design of programs that are registered on the SACA system. You need to know about it, and also to research, to research or to search for qualifications. You might not know, where do I find this qualification? You can find them under SACA search engine, because they have developed their own system where you just enter and find every qualification that is registered against a provider, against a quality assuring body, or against a quality council. They are all there in SACA. We have run out of time at this moment. We have run out of time. However, I want to pause here for some questions. If there are any questions, please do ask me, and then we can be able to assist you and guide you, furthermore. However, please research more about this. Information is found into our learner portal. You can also download that information from the system, from our learning portal. The full learner guide has got a full description of this thing that we've been talking about. Try to read more about it. When we meet tomorrow, we're going to unpack the assessment practices on the principles of assessment and the deliverables. Then we look at the assessment of the portfolio of evidence. That is our main objective tomorrow, to unpack the portfolio of evidence and how can you complete that those assignments for submissions for you to be declared an assessor. I remain the only one, your assessor and facilitator. Yusuf Nsamba is my name, and I am here to support you. Should you require further information about some of other courses that we do, like skills development facilitation, that one is so massive. If you want also to advance from this combo to a full qualification of occupationally directed education and training development practices, NQF level 5 for 120 credits, and also the NQF level 6 for 160 50 credits, please do contact me. I can align you to level 5 and also level 6 of registration process, which is actually still ongoing. We are extended, it's the grace of God that we are extended automatically through the Quality Council for Trades and Occupation. Our accreditation program registration was extended as ETDP SITA practitioners for the level 6. So we are happy that we can still absorb more individuals onto that program up until 2027. So take this opportunity and register for it if you want to enter into the industry in full, not in portion. See you again tomorrow, same time, same code, Do not change the code, same code. All right. I see some people where we are getting lost. Say, where are they going to find which we are still using the same code, the same way you have logged in today, the same way we are logging in tomorrow to finalize the entire program on assessment. And then next week we shall be embarking onto facilitation as a program. And that one is very quick. It's only going to take us 2 days to do facilitation. And then once you completed all that together, we shall assess, give you assessment report and also the completion of certificates, and then you enroll or you enter into the moderation practices course, which is the NQF level 6 program that we can also take for the next or for extra 3 to 4 days to complete. And then you'll be out of this course, and then you can be able to enroll for other. Thank you so much. I'm gonna quickly check if we have got any questions. I've got one question here which says, how many chances do we have on the test? Okay, we do have 2 chances. Okay, so you have got to attempt to answer the first chance. If you don't get it right, we give you another extra chance to complete the assessment. So take your time. Do not rush into completing. Take your time and ask where you do not understand. Okay, we only have that, and the pass mark is 70%. If you get below 70, you have to literally redo the entire assessment. And then once you do not get it right, we shall have to set a new set of assessment, not the same one that you see on the system. But that will be private. And if you do not get it right and fail or do not become competent in the second attempt, you will be penalized. There is a fee of 250 for every person who does not get it right and they still wanna continue. You cannot fail forever. This thing is just obvious, and it's open book assessment. It's not like we're gonna close. Open book assessment, all what you don't accept is plagiarism. Don't go and copy people's work and paste it into your assessments. If you are getting resource from somewhere else, we say you need to recognize the assessment sources. Where you've got the information, you need to make recognition of those individuals who have taken time to design and develop that content. Please recognize them as your resource or source of information where you've got that information. Secondly, we are using what is called the VAS principle. Now, when we talk about VAS principle, is VACS. We assess using the VAS principle. Let me write it down here so that people can be able to understand what is VAS principle. VACS. We use the VAS principle. V stands for validity, A stands for authenticity, C stands for currency, and S stands for systematic. So information must be valid. In other words, it must be aligned to the question. Don't copy and paste things that are not related, please. I've seen a lot of people attempting questions, and then they just copy and paste. The next thing, then information must be authentic. It must be your own work. Do not give to someone to conduct assessment or to do it for you. It must be your own work, and you need to declare the authenticity. That is your own work. I think you'll see it in under the portfolio page number. The page number is it 13 somewhere? The declaration of authenticity. That is your own work. And then here under C, of course, your every evidence that you're going to produce must be current. Do not take up historical evidence which is not backed up or has not been updated and put it as your evidence. Make current information and based on your own understanding. We want to understand you. The way you understand the question is how you answer it. Simple as that. We are in adult education, so nobody's going to penalize you for answering the way you feel like it's the right way. Answer according to your own understanding. If we need to correct you and support you, we support you based on. So do not just cut and paste. Cut and paste. We don't want those cut and paste things. And then be systematic. Number your work. All right. Be systematic, please. Number everything that you are doing. Put question and the number. The question numbers that we can be able to allocate the right marks to the questions, please. Most especially if you have downloaded the formative assessment knowledge questionnaire is in Microsoft Word. You can also type. If you are using a pen to write down your answers, write in a neat way, I know some handwriting might be very difficult, for us to read. So write appropriately so that we can be able to mark your assessment. So we're gonna mark you based on to that principle. We call it the VAS principle. So thank you so much. Let me see if there's any other question. At this moment, we don't have any other questions. If you are happy, give me a thumbs up. If you are not happy, contact me, right? Send me a WhatsApp. Then we will be able to chat a little bit more. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening until we meet again tomorrow. Thank you.